And hello, everybody. Today, I want to share the story of Alicia and Rick that had a very empowering experience of birth, and very empowering. And also, what is very special about this story is that they were a team. It was a teamwork, and they were empowered, both of them. So that's very special. And I just want to let them tell the story.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
I'm Rick.
Rick and I had a baby 5 months ago, and this was my third time giving birth, but it was Rick's. This is our first baby together, so it was Rick's first time experiencing childbirth, and we knew that we wanted to have a natural childbirth because my two older boys, I had experiences in the hospital that were not empowering, and I felt at the mercy of the hospital staff, and had interventions and was induced, and I just wanted a really different experience this time. And I think Rick, what was your thoughts about natural
I had the
childbirth?
same sort of feelings. Like I haven't always had good experiences with the medical system, and I just being so excited to have my own child and to be part of this birth experience. I didn't want to yield my firsthand experience as the father to a conventional medical system. So I think that was my major hang up with just a normal hospital birth.
So I had given birth twice before, but also wanted to feel more educated about my body and the birth experience, and just feel like I'm prepared as possible. And Rick had a lot that he wanted to learn. So we sought out, we kind of just stumbled into something called the Bradley method. And I think it was an 8-week class that we ended up taking online. It normally happens in person. But we learned so much about every step of the birth experience. And though the Bradley method is a little bit dated, it was written by a man in the 1950s. His entire premise was the woman knows how to give birth, and the doctor isn't really needed, but the partner who helped conceive this baby should be a part of that process as well, because in the 50s, fathers were really shut out of that experience. So anyone who looks into the Bradley method might notice that it's pretty dated, and you kind of have to look over some of that, but it had some timeless information in it that really helped us prepare for giving birth, and made me feel confident that Rick knew how to support me during the birthing process.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing for me was that it shined some light on some of the mysteries that a lot of guys don't know about, like what's your wife going to go through, and what are the positive and negative signs, like it just educated me on what to expect and what to do in different scenarios. And I think that having a little bit of preparation under your belt really it takes you out of that in between, in the fight or flight zone where you just freeze up and nobody knows what to do. So
Exactly.
And I think that it did more than just educate us. It was a program that really helped us to connect in the last few months of my pregnancy. It helped us to feel like Rick was a part of getting me ready for the baby to come, and also taught him, we learned to communicate what I needed in during my laboring, what is relaxing to me, what reminders I might need, and what is not helpful. So we felt super prepared.
Yeah, I think that method is maybe it was created a long time ago, but it's still so valid, absolutely valid. And I love that part where you learn how to relax, deeply relax, because that's the main thing. And I love the part where, you know, the partner is absolutely involved and has all the knowledge and information and the tips, all those tips. I think it's really, really, you tumble into something very, very valid. Yeah.
We also, you know, I feel like it kind of helped him to sort of be my doula,
Right.
although we also hired a doula.
Mhm.
And a lot of people who take the Bradley method class do hire a doula as well because of their wealth of knowledge and what they have to offer. But so I had my prenatal care through a midwife clinic. So I didn't have just one midwife. I had a group of midwives, and I tried to have appointments with each of them because when it was time for me to give birth, it would be whoever was on call.
Right.
And I wanted to have a water birth. I personally wanted to have, I wasn't choosing a home birth for myself, but wanted a birth center experience. And our freestanding birth center here in Tucson had closed last year and had partnered with one of the best local hospital for maternity and childbirth. They partnered together to create a birth center that was at the hospital but separate.
Right.
So my plan was to give birth there doing a water birth, but we have to go through the triage of the hospital to access the birth center. So I went into labor. Should we tell how I went into labor? We were laying in bed and it was 11 o'clock at night, and I don't know how we got on the subject.
On your due date.
On my due date, yes. I don't know how we got on the subject, but we started talking about how great Mariah Carey's early music was, especially it was like what, 1992 MTV Unplugged concert. So we had found that YouTube video of her concert and we're listening to it and being silly and just like singing it and belting it out. And then all of a sudden I felt this powerful, it almost felt like a powerful kick and almost sort of a popping sensation. And so our little baby decided he wanted to come with the power of the Emotions by Mariah Carey. He was ready to make his journey.
Yeah.
So ready.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes him feel good now when he's upset is that song.
He's so connected to that music.
Yeah.
It's will absolutely every time help soothe him or even put him to sleep. He has a special connection with it. So
and I want to add something before it goes away. You heard, I mean, everybody here for the video, you heard her voice, and the voice connects. It's like there's going to be a video about the internal flute and how when you liberate that sound inside, you empower yourself in relation to laboring. So it really opened the channels. This is very, very like so perfect, you know? It's fantastic.
It's a really special part of our story.
Yes.
So my water actually broke at 11:11 with Mariah Carey singing Emotions. And I immediately started having contractions, and very, very quickly they got close together.
Yeah, the interval got shorter and then they started like stacking. So there wasn't a break in between.
Yeah, I was laboring in the bathroom for a long time. I just sat on the toilet backwards and had a pillow on the back and just was playing my sounds like our baby's awake. I was playing my meditative laboring music, and that lasted for a couple of hours, but then the contractions got so close and really didn't give me much break in between. So things were progressing really, really quickly. And Rick called the doula
Yeah, for advice on when to go into the when to go into the birthing center. And she said,
Do you want to bring Lenny in?
yeah.
Here's the baby.
This is Remy. He's our 11-year-old.
Hi.
This is Lenny.
Hi.
This is who we're talking about. We're talking about you, Lenny.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. I'll take him for a little bit. We'll see how this goes. So
Hi.
we went to the hospital and
Smiley baby.
yes.
Mr. Smiley. So yes.
We went to the hospital. We had to check into the triage. And I felt right when I got there that I wasn't being really received by the medical staff. It's like they needed to do their things and check their boxes. They weren't paying attention to whether I was in the peak of a contraction when they put the blood pressure cuff on my arm. And the midwife who was on call at for the birth center that night met us at triage, and she was the one midwife that we hadn't met before. And immediately I realized that I didn't feel emotionally safe with her. I didn't feel like she could be a leader or a presence for me to lean on. She was very soft-spoken and just was like, meek is a good word, and it just wasn't a good match for me. And she was just trying to she was just trying to check me, and I didn't feel supported by her, is my point. And so in that moment, I knew it was just up to us.
Yes.
It's up to us in the triage room. But part of the policy with the birth center, Liddy, we're trying to tell your story, dude. Can you hear us?
Yes, absolutely. He's just so excited. I mean, like, if I would love to virtually take you in my arms. Yes, would be nice to be able. We'll get there someday. So your mom is making a big decision at this point in the story, because they are deciding that they are going to be that amazing team, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The criteria for us to go into the birth center was I had to be dilated to a 6. And I think that in not feeling welcomed and received by the triage staff, I think I regressed a little bit, and she checked me, I was at a 4, but I still had a sense that like this was rapid labor, and I knew I wasn't going to be at a 4 for long. So the staff left me to labor, and it was just Rick and I in the triage room for a little less than an hour.
Yeah.
And I progressed through my labor really quick, really rapidly, without breaks in between contractions. It was just, yes, peak after peak of contraction. And I felt the pressure, and I knew he was ready to come. And Rick had to go get the triage staff to let them know that I was going to be ready to push soon, and they didn't believe me. They wanted to check me. They wanted to make sure that I was dilated enough that I could push.
Yeah.
But
that was when I took over, because Alicia pushed really badly. And the midwife, while Alicia was having these contractions, wanted to check her cervix for dilation. And so I finally just decided that what Alicia needed was just to be able to she needed some peace and to be shielded from all that chaos, so she could find her own strength and get through that. So I told her that if she feels like she needs to push, then she could push. She doesn't need anybody's permission for that. So she started pushing, and we got through it. It didn't take, I think, maybe 2 or 3 pushes, and the little guy was in my hands.
But I mean, you were the 2 of you. I mean, you were in the bathroom.
I told the midwife to not ask any more questions or to touch Alicia. If she needs something, ask me, and I'll find a time when Alicia could hear me and then ask her that question? Or
Yeah, so I ended up in the bathroom of our triage room, and it was a small bathroom. There was a sink that I was like leaning on. And then when I told Rick that I felt like it was almost time to push, he stood in front of me and he said, this is when he took over, and he said, Alicia, if you need to push, then you push. And I said, that was all I needed to hear. And I said, okay, I need to squat. So
they wanted her to get in a wheelchair and go to another room while
they wanted to take me to the birth
crowning.
center. I'm like, I'm not going to sit in that wheelchair. I'm going to sit on my baby's head because he's right here.
Yeah.
So I hung on to Rick's neck and I squatted right in front of him. And right when I went into that squat position is when I knew that he was ready to. He was ready
to come.
like he wanted to come out. So I pushed about 3 times and Rick was right there to catch him.
Oh my God.
I felt as if no one else was in the room. I felt like it was just me and Rick and our baby coming into the world, and
Yes.
it was amazing.
It was amazing. Rick, tell me a little bit how it felt. I mean, if you were able to, recall that intense moment where the baby came out and you received it.
Yeah, well, it's still really vivid. I mean, I'm starting to tear up thinking about it before I even explain it. So I remember all of it. But we were in a very narrow little spot, and I was right there in the right spot to catch the baby when he came out. And the midwife was asking if I wanted to switch out and let her in to deliver the baby. And I said, no, I didn't let her in. There wasn't enough room for her to get in, and I didn't let her in. Alicia, when she squatted down, I could see the top of his head and all of his hair sticking out. And then she pushed one time and he came out to the here. And then I had a hold of him there and was supporting his head. And then she pushed one time and just the rest of his body came out into my hand. And my intention, and all as this was coming up, was immediately to take the baby straight out and in front of mom's face and then on her. So she could start feeling better. I knew if she could get that baby in front of her eyes, she would start to feel better.
Oh my God.
The funny thing is as soon as he came out, I picked him up and was going to go hand it to mom, and he was face to face, eye to eye with me, and I was frozen for a second because it was like I had been turned into it was like a mirror with a baby version of myself because he looked so much like me.
Oh my
but I just
God.
sat there for a minute and then turned him and gave him to mom, and it was incredible. It was the most incredible thing. He came out just perfect and I was bracing for him to look weird and slimy, and he just came out as the most perfect little angel. It was pretty great.
Yes.
And so after that happened, I think just until we finally got to the point where mom and baby could lay down, like the whole point from birth until then was like chaos with nurses and the midwife. They kept like, it must have been 3 or 4 times I had to say like, we're not going to cut the umbilical cord until it quits pulsing. There's no rush to get that done. And like, please don't yank. She was yanking on the umbilical cord to get the placenta out of mom. Like, don't do that. If you have to yank, it's too soon. Just let it. There's no rush. Mm-hmm. But I think they were all in fight or flight, and it was chaotic.
Because they weren't expecting me to give birth in triage.
They were triage.
Because I was, 4 centimeters dilated, and then boom, it was not much longer, and he was here. And in fact, our doula didn't even make it in time. Yeah. She came after he was born.
But they really wanted to keep taking the baby to go do stuff, like to wash him off and to weigh him and stuff. And I just had to over and over be like, the baby needs to be in her arms, and if she needs a break, I'll hold him. But needs mom and dad. The baby needs mom and dad time for at least an hour or 2.
Yes. And but I really honor like your being so clear and brave and standing your grounds. That's that's what I want everybody to, you know, listen to it, because
Yeah.
you were really connected, you were really clear, and you made this birth be what it was supposed to be, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I were to
Because you know, the midwives and the doulas have a lot of pressure from the system.
Mhm.
And in this country, more than in most countries, there's a lot of pressure. If something goes wrong, it's really bad for them. If it goes wrong for a doctor, you know, there's insurance, there's this and that. For them, there's way more pressure. So it's understandable that they were, you know, feeling a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, it
And-
was difficult for them. And that's why I'm so very grateful for you standing your ground and having, you know, not a doubt, you know.
Yeah.
It really was this, like when I reflect back on it, I remember I came in with the presence of like wanting to be supported and like open to receiving support. And immediately when I sensed that I wasn't going to be supported in the way I needed supported, then I immediately felt this sort of protective bubble around Rick and I, that,
Yes.
you know, yes, we were in the hospital, we were in triage, and I much rather would have been in the birth center. I think I would have had, you know, a more supportive environment in the birth center and in the laboring tub, or the where I could have actually given birth or hoped to give birth. But what is powerful in our birth story is that we immediately just were able to switch into, even though we're in this environment, we are in our loving, protective relationship that brought this baby into being, and we can bring him into the world together, and that we don't need anybody else.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. Exactly. No, absolutely. I mean, this was meant to be like that. I mean, and I'm going to say not only for you guys, because you guys got empowered, you know it in your own body, in your own heart, you know that it's
Joy,
possible, but you are.
wanted me to show my tattoo.
Yes, I was going to
This
ask
was
for
the
that.
energy that I channeled.
Exactly.
My powerful, powerful feminine.
Exactly. That's the point. And that's why I'm so grateful that we're doing this video, because this video and has to be shared a lot. Whatever the situation is, you have the power. It's absolutely your birthright. It's absolutely whatever you want to call it. But, you know, that's what's going to change it for people that's coming after you. You know, we need to make the changes in the system.
Right.
And this is a vivid, like living proof of what,
Also,
you know.
I feel like I held a vision for what I wanted my birth experience to be. And
Yes.
I'm a swimmer. I swam laps with him up until the day I was due. And I thought I was gonna bring him into the world in water. And, you know, best laid plans don't always pan out. But just like you said, you know, there's so many things that we can't control, so many external factors, but what it boiled down to is all that it needed to be. All that it needed to be was
Yes.
us empowered and bringing our baby and wherever he chose and however quickly he chose to come.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's a balance. It's a balance between, you know, you actively being powerful, and part of that power is being able to surrender, you know,
Right.
surrender to the situation. Like you said, okay, this is what it is. You know,
Yeah.
it's not what I decided or exactly what I planned, but this is what it is. And this is where we're going to express our power. you know, so it's a balance. It's a balance. And that's what life is all about. You know,
Yeah.
you inhale where you go, okay, I'm in charge, and you exhale where you go, I'm surrounded, you know? So that's exactly what you did. It's such a wonderful story. It's such a beautiful model. And I'm so, so grateful for you to share it. And I'm going to
Thank you for
put,
letting us share our story.
no, absolutely. I'm
Letting us
going to
share Minnie's
put,
story.
I'm going to put your favorite music. Yay.
Ooh.
Can you hear it? Yay. Do you know that song? And I'm going to say goodbye. Bye, beautiful family.